Warning, the content you are about to hear on this podcast contains a discussion about death as well as a reference to suicide. Discretion is advised.
I think that I'm just a rock chick.
I would describe my music and my sound as Avril Lavigne.
It's the best damn thing.
Welcome back to another episode of the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast, a facts and trivia-based podcast about Canadian pop singer Avril Lavigne. I'm your host, Andrea DiFrancesco. As always, before we launch into today's topic, let's first run through everything that's happened with Avril since our last episode. In the previous episode, I mentioned that Avril's new single, Love It When You Hate Me, was scheduled to impact radio on January 25th. However, it was revealed on the day that I posted that episode that the impact date actually ended up being pushed back to February 8th. Additionally, Love It When You Hate Me debuted at number 40 on the Billboard Pop Airplay chart for the week of January 24th, which was her first appearance on that chart since 2013 with Here's to Never Growing Up. She also did an interview with Nashville-based radio station 107.5 The River. On January 27th, Avril did an interview with Morning Mashup on Sirius XM Hits 1, and she also launched 2 new Instagram filters centered around the Love Sucks album. One filter is themed after Bite Me and shows a sky background with the Bite Me cake, while the other filter features Love It When You Hate Me and shows the black balloons from the album cover floating into the air. The same day, her UK store also offered a limited edition spray-painted edition of the album, exclusively available on the UK store. The same day, she also did an interview with BBC Radio 1 and played 5 of her favorite songs. At this time, fans also noticed Avril's merch store had changed so that the autographed CD that was offered in the US store was suddenly modified to include a signed artwork card, which was not what was originally advertised. Many fans were confused about the change and emailed Avril's customer service team, but at the time of this recording, there has been no explanation given as to why it was changed. A few days later, Avril uploaded stories to her Instagram account showing herself autographing the CDs, which appeared to be artwork cards rather than CD booklets. It's likely that the original advertisement was a simple website error, or perhaps a last-minute change to better accommodate shipping requirements, but this is not known for sure. On January 28th, she appeared on Air with Ryan Seacrest. She also did a Q&A on Instagram while backstage for an unknown project. During the Q&A, she revealed there will be a music video for Love It When You Hate Me, as well as a deluxe edition of Love Sucks and a restock of the signed CDs. She also said the title track was one of her favorite songs on the album and the one she thinks fans will like the most. The songs she is most excited to perform live are Love It When You Hate Me and Kiss Me Like the World Is Ending. She also revealed that she will be dropping new Abby Dawn items and that she has worked with a new team for the line. On January 31st, she did an interview with Mercedes in the Morning, where she revealed she would be open to the idea of a residency in Las Vegas. On the same day, she also did an Instagram Live with XL 106.7 based in Orlando, Florida. She confirmed she began work on Love Sucks in November 2020 and also revealed a few lyrics from the title track. And lastly, on February 1st, Avril did interviews with KDWB 101.3's Virtual Skyroom, Odyssey, and ABS-CBN in the Philippines. She also taped a segment for The Kelly Clarkson Show, which will air at a later date. According to an audience member, Avril recorded a performance of Love It When You Hate Me for the show in advance, but her interview with Kelly was done in studio. Contrary to fans' expectations, they did not perform Breakaway together, but apparently did discuss the possibility of doing so in the future. On this same day, her team also launched a hash flag on Twitter for hashtag Avril Lavigne, hashtag Bite Me, hashtag Love Sucks, and hashtag Boys Lie, which shows the same black balloons that appear on the Love Sucks album cover. The hash flag will be available through March 31st. Later that night, Avril was seen out with ex-husband Derek Whibley and current boyfriend Modson at Nobu in Malibu. She also uploaded stories to her Instagram showing her autographing the artwork cards for the signed Love Sucks album. The same evening, the track Boys Lie featuring Machine Gun Kelly was leaked. Rumors also circulated that someone had purchased the full Love Sucks album and outtakes. The leaked track of Boys Lie was 2 minutes and 56 seconds, while the final studio version on the album is only 2 minutes and 43 seconds, meaning the leaked track was possibly not the final version of the song. At the time of this recording, that's the latest news with Avril's current activities, so we can now launch into today's topic. At this point, we've covered just about everything to do with Avril's music and side projects, at least until the new album comes out. So I figured until then, it's time to take the podcast in a bit of a different direction and do some of the more discussion-based episodes I'd mentioned a bit in the past. To borrow a line from Girlfriend, this will be the first episode in a new series I like to call That's What Everyone's Talking About. For some of these episodes, I'm going to try to get some guests if possible so we can get some different perspectives and really just make the podcast as interactive and interesting as possible. As I've always said, this is a podcast by Avril fans, for Avril fans, and I think it's the perfect way to get other fans involved. So for the debut edition of That's What Everyone's Talking About, there's no better topic to start with than the infamous conspiracy theory that Avril died and was replaced with a lookalike. Naturally, this may be an upsetting topic for some people, and as I mentioned at the start of this episode, it does contain a reference to suicide. So of course we want to approach this topic with as much sensitivity as possible and bear in mind that this is mainly for discussion and informational purposes. In this episode, I'll be diving into the origins of this theory, what Avril herself has said about it, the psychological reasons why people believe in conspiracies, whether I think there's any truth to the theory, and similar conspiracy theories about other celebrities. There's so much to discuss, so let's get into it. So for a bit of background in case anyone listening is not familiar with the conspiracy theory, a while back there was an internet rumor that Avril died in 2003 and was replaced with a lookalike or body double named Melissa Vandella in order to continue her career. Many people who believe in the theory say the differences in Avril's hair, voice, clothing style, and music are evidence that it is not the real Avril. So first, let's look at the origin of this theory. The conspiracy theory was initially fabricated by an anonymous Brazilian blogger on Blogspot, published on May 6, 2011, called Avril Está Morta, or Avril is Dead, though some sources say the theory dates as far back as 2005. It has gained more traction online within the last few years and has over 3 million views to date, as well as over 1,000 comments. The blog itself still exists on Blogspot and can be roughly translated into English. The theory itself is incredibly lengthy and goes on for several pages, but this is a rough translation of what the author has to say in the beginning of the post. The friendly and talented Avril Lavigne from a young age surprises the public and the press with her work. However, one of the most controversial facts about her career was undoubtedly her sudden change in style and appearance, which took place in 2004. These changes are certainly related to maturity and new experiences, but if you like conspiracy theories, I have one for you. What if Avril Lavigne had died in 2003 and been replaced by an almost identical doppelganger? Are there elements that would support this hypothesis? Amazingly, everything would fit together perfectly for this to have happened. It would be absurd to say that it really happened, but if we look for signs that point to it, it is frightening to number of coincidences that fit together surprisingly. That's why I decided to create this blog, where I gathered all the coincidences that supposedly point to Avril Lavigne's death and her replacement by a lookalike. I want to make it clear that I have no intention of putting my theory as news or something I would be trying to prove, but I do want the reader to follow along as a curiosity. Likewise, I wish to make it clear in advance that none of the points made here are false or fabricated. All translations of lyrics, facts, and arguments in general used in theory are real and true. There is no montage, false, or forged information, because that would lose the fun. Agree? This approach, however, made many people use my theory as a real fact. So interestingly enough, the theory was not made because the author genuinely believed it to be true, but rather because they thought it was something interesting to think about. I also once heard myself that the person made it with the intention to prove that people will believe something just because they read it on the internet. So to summarize briefly from the theory's Wikipedia page, the theory alleges that the pressures of fame, combined with the death of Avril's grandfather in 2003, which did actually happen, sent her into a deep depression after the release of her 2002 debut album Let Go, and that she died by suicide shortly after. A lookalike named Melissa was originally hired to distract paparazzi in order to protect Avril while she was still alive. Avril was said to have befriended Melissa and that the body double was taught how to sing and perform like her. After Avril's death, her record company hid the news from the press and replaced her with Melissa Vandella in order to continue Avril's successful music career. The theory attributes the recordings of Avril's future music to Melissa. Much of the evidence cited in support of the conspiracy theory is the purported appearance and disappearance of various moles and other skin blemishes in pictures of Avril over time, as well as a promotional photo shoot in which she has the name Melissa written on her hand. In addition to the changes in her appearance, the theory alleges that the title and artwork for Avril's second album Under My Skin, as well as the lyrics of songs like My Happy Ending and Together, are subliminal messaging. The original blog further suggests that Melissa feels guilt over, quote, participating in this farce, leading to the subliminal messaging. The theory began to gain traction in the United States in October 2015 when BuzzFeed reporter Ryan Broderick tweeted about Avril Está Morta. In a BuzzFeed post, Broderick cleared up his tweet on the matter, mentioning that the opening line of the original blog post admits that the theory is a hoax, and that, quote, this blog was created to show how conspiracy theories can look true. It gained further traction in May of 2017 when a high school student posted a Twitter thread about the conspiracy, which was retweeted 250,000 times. However, this version of the theory claimed Under My Skin was created using pre-existing recordings of the real Avril. The Twitter thread inspired an internet meme in which users would say that a celebrity or fictional character died and was replaced, showing two pictures of the figure in question and titling it a conspiracy theory thread. The theory gained even more notoriety due to several YouTubers and podcasters discussing it, such as YouTuber Shane Dawson and the podcast Chicks in the Office. So that's a pretty comprehensive summary of the general theory and how it ended up gaining so much attention. Next, we'll look at the evidence that supposedly supports this theory. The blog lists 10 main reasons, and again, this is roughly translated into English. Number 1, different faces, mainly the nose, confirmed by a specialist. Number 2, Avril averaged 1.58 in 2002. The new Avril measures 1.55. People don't decrease in size, only in old age. Number 3, the voice of the new Avril, besides being thinner, she can't reach the same notes that the old Avril could in the songs. Example, Complicated and I'm With You. Number 4, the subliminal messages of the CD Under My Skin, cover, booklet, lyrics, and more hidden messages in clips. Number 5, Evan Taubenfeld left the band the year Under My Skin was released and made a song saying he lost his best friend. Number 6, the handwriting has changed. The new Avril even uses another autograph. Number 7, sudden change in personality, way of being, style, etc. Number 8, the old Avril said she would never wear cute, trendy clothes in the diva style. She hated singers who did the patricina style, and she repudiated that term diva. The new one dresses that way and gets the title of diva and doesn't care. Number 9, the old Avril said she would never show her body to cameras. The new one does this in clips and photo shoots. And number 10, the old Avril said she would never join pop style with dancers doing choreography on stage. The new one does all that. So let's analyze these one at a time and dig a little deeper to see if we can explain them away. Number 1, the first piece of evidence given is that her appearance has changed, particularly her nose. This can be easily explained since Avril started her career as a teenager and naturally people's faces change as they get older or their weight changes, etc. There are several Avril fan accounts online that have posted hundreds of comparison pictures showing that Avril's face and nose look exactly the same now as they did 20 years ago. Number 2, the theory claims Avril somehow became shorter. I personally don't know if this one is true or not. She's always been short, about 5'2" tall. Her height could have changed depending on her posture or overall health, if it even changed at all, but that seems highly unlikely. Number 3, one of the biggest pieces of evidence people use to try to claim Melissa is real is that Avril's singing and speaking voice is noticeably different after her first album, particularly from The Best Damn Thing onwards. Her voice was very deep on her first couple of albums, and then became higher pitched and more feminine. Again, this can be explained away very easily due to age or vocal training. She started working with a coach sometime around either the Under My Skin era or the Best Damn Thing era, which would explain why she had an easier time reaching higher notes and why her speaking pitch changed. She may have also been trying to use healthier placement by speaking higher. This is something that Ariana Grande has actually talked about a lot in the past when it comes to vocal technique, is that it's actually a healthy vocal technique to speak in a little bit of a higher pitch. Not so unnaturally high that it sounds weird, but just a little bit higher than how you would normally speak, because that's actually healthy placement for the voice and avoids like strain and stress and that sort of thing. So it's possible that she could have been training with a coach and maybe she was told, hey, if you've got to use your voice a lot and do a lot of interviews and things like that, you should kind of try speaking just a little bit higher to sort of protect your voice and avoid the strain and the stress and that sort of thing. Number 4, the theory claims there are subliminal messages hidden in Under My Skin. It's pretty well known that the album was largely inspired by her breakup with former bandmate Jesse Colburn. Number 5, the next theory is that Evan Taubenfeld left Avril's band in 2004 and then released what I'm assuming they're referring to as Best Years of Our Lives. Evan left Avril's band because he was signed as a staff writer with EMI Music Publishing and received his own recording contract with Sire and Warner Brothers Records in October 2004. He also continued to work with Avril on her follow-up albums The Best Damn Thing in 2007 and Goodbye Lullaby in 2011, as well as tour with her on the Black Star Tour in 2011. The song Best Years of Our Lives has also never been confirmed by Evan to be about Avril. Number 6, the next thing is they claim Avril's handwriting changed. I'm not sure if there's any merit to this theory since we've seen Avril's handwriting many times over the years, especially very recently as she's been signing the Love Sucks albums. To me, her autograph looks exactly the same. Her handwriting first appeared in the lyrics of the booklet for Let Go, and it's always looked the same since then. Number 7, sudden change in personality and style. This is an age-old argument that people have talked about forever with Avril. As far as her change in personality and style, it can just simply be attributed to the fact that she grew up and matured. She began her career as a teenager, so naturally her taste in things was going to change as she got older, and she just kind of decided that things she didn't like before, that she just liked them now. Number 8 is in a similar vein to that with her fashion style. It's the same thing. She grew up and her taste changed. I do think that she's always done a pretty good job of kind of retaining her glam punk style, but just kind of evolving it over time. I do think that the way that she dressed in like the Best Damn Thing era could be considered sort of like a more feminine take on her style from the first two eras. I really don't think her style was that different. She did for a while try to dress a little more mature and sophisticated, but once she started the cycle for the Best Damn Thing album, she kind of started with like the Abby Dawn stuff and then the more like glam punk kind of thing. It was just kind of like a feminine twist on like her skater style, really. So honestly, to me, I don't think her fashion style has really changed all that much. Number 9, showing her body. Again, age-old argument that people try to use. When she was a teenager, of course, she wasn't going to really feel comfortable showing off her body in that way, and it probably wouldn't have really been that appropriate either. But obviously, once she became a young woman, she felt more comfortable and confident showing off her body a little bit in photo shoots and magazines and things like that. And as she got older and experienced more things, she probably just changed her views on how she felt about that. And the last reason, number 10, dancers on stage. She had dancers for one album, and I honestly think it suited the nature of the Best Damn Thing really well. So I don't think that this is really that good of an argument regardless. She used to talk about with the previous couple of albums how she didn't want to use background dancers like the other pop stars because that just wasn't her thing. It didn't go with the music that she did. And then suddenly she used dancers for the Best Damn Thing and people were like, well, she's kind of a hypocrite for doing that. But I just think that, it was something that she wanted to try. It was an experiment and she only had them for the one album. And I think it just really suited the nature, the type of music that the Best Damn Thing was. So I don't think that this is a really good argument regardless. And I don't think it really proves anything about Avril being alive or dead. So while there are some pretty simple explanations for all of these theories, I think it's always important to look at the other side when trying to disprove an argument and acknowledge their points of view as well. So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second and see if there is any merit to this theory. Let's pretend that for the sake of argument, the theory is actually true and that Avril really has been replaced by a lookalike. The thing that doesn't really make sense to me is that if this is the case, why they would change Avril's image so drastically. If the point of having a lookalike is to continue Avril's successful career, why change everything about her image, personality, and music so drastically? Some supporters of the theory might say it's because in a way it would make it less obvious that it was not the real Avril. So for example, in 2002 and 2003, Avril had brown hair, while from 2005 onwards, her hair has been blonde. So in a way, by changing her image and style so drastically, it can simply be chalked up to Avril changing her style rather than being a completely different person. However, this does not really make sense to me because Avril became successful and popular by being different. Her straight brown hair, tomboy skater girl style, and rocker voice were her trademarks. If the record company wanted to keep her career going and the lookalike was supposedly trained to sing and perform like Avril, then why is everything so different? Wouldn't it have made more sense to try to continue with the same image and music style as much as possible? Maybe the supporters of the theory think by doing so, it would be more obvious it wasn't really Avril since no one can perfectly imitate her speaking or singing voice. In a way, trying to do a perfect imitation would make it obvious it wasn't her, so by drastically changing everything, it can be explained that it's just her changing. Also, when Avril came out with Girlfriend and the Best Damn Thing album, she received a lot of criticism for the sudden change in style and music. At this point, she also started posing for sexier photo shoots and experimenting with dancers on stage. It would not have really made sense for the record company to change Avril's image so drastically, knowing it would receive this kind of criticism. However, supporters of the theory might say the sudden changes and the extreme criticism or backlash from fans was done on purpose to distract from the fact it was not really Avril to sort of create a diversion. Another flaw in this theory is that it claims Avril was replaced by the lookalike sometime after 2003, which was the period when she began work on her second album, Under My Skin, released in 2004. A lot of the evidence given for why Avril was replaced with the body double is that Avril's voice and appearance changed. However, Avril did not really start to make such drastic changes until 2006 or 2007 for her third album, The Best Damn Thing. In 2004, Avril actually dyed her hair with black streaks and then dyed it completely blonde sometime later that year. Under My Skin was a darker, more rock version of her debut album, and her voice had noticeably improved, but still retained much of the deep and dark qualities of her voice on her first album. So to me, it seems like an inconsistency to say that she started to change in 2004 when the really drastic changes they're mainly referring to didn't actually happen until a few years after that. So let's examine the theory from another point of view if we're pretending for the sake of argument that it's true. This theory has been going around for quite some time, and the general public has caught on that Avril is an imposter. So if you basically know that it's not the real Avril, why are they still using the lookalike? Maybe it's because most people don't believe in the theory or that Avril has denied these claims, so since most people don't believe in it, they feel they can still get away with using a double. But you would think once the jig is up, they would just stop using the double, or for that matter, why hasn't Avril made some sudden changes to her appearance and music again to try to throw people off? If anything, lately we've seen her actually revert back to her original pop-punk style in music. And lastly, even though this theory was created in 2011, I think it's also worth mentioning that the theory doesn't make a lot of sense when we take Avril's battle with Lyme disease into consideration, which of course happened years later. If the point of using the double was to continue Avril's career, why did she disappear for so long when she was sick with Lyme disease? By not releasing an album for over 5 years, the record company wouldn't have been making any money. Did the lookalike actually have Lyme disease, or was it a ploy to be able to take a break from the music industry? If Melissa was actually sick, wouldn't doctors have discovered who she really was by looking at her medical records, blood tests, etc.? Or were they paid off to keep quiet? I think it's pretty safe to say this reason, if no other, is the ultimate reason we can officially debunk this theory. As Avril says in Hush Hush, so many questions, but I don't ask why. So while we can safely assume this theory is simply just that, we do have to examine one of the most damning pieces of evidence, which is a promotional photo where Avril has the name Melissa written on her hand. In November 2013, Avril's foundation launched a donation campaign with Prizeo, and those who donated a certain amount of money received a personalized photo with their name written on Avril's hand, arm, etc. The picture in question is a prize photo dedicated to the owner of an Avril fan site called avril-l.org, whose name happens to be Melissa. You can find the original tweet of the picture on her Twitter account at avril.l.org. So now that we've explored the conspiracy more in depth and explained away the evidence, I think it would be interesting to analyze the psychological reasons why people might believe in conspiracy theories in the first place. According to an article for Psychology Today by David Ludden, PhD, published in 2018, researchers found that people may believe in conspiracy theories for the desire for understanding and certainty, the desire for control and security, and the desire to maintain a positive self-image. An article by Dr. Christian Jarrett for ScienceFocus.com, home of BBC Science Focus magazine, published in January 2022, says those who believe in conspiracies are, quote, likely to see apparent connections between disparate events that the rest of us just don't notice. He goes on to say, research shows they are also less likely to have had the kind of education or have the critical thinking skills necessary to help them see the glaring holes in their wild theories. He cites research from Scott Lilienfeld of Emory University in Atlanta, which showed that believers in conspiracies have, quote, an inflated sense of their own intellectual competence and tend to be lower in intellectual humility. Dr. Jarrett goes on to write that ignorance combined with overconfidence creates a fertile ground for unsubstantiated beliefs to take hold. He cites additional research which says believing in a widely discredited theory and feeling part of a community of fellow believers can help to satisfy some people's need to feel special, and that, quote, studies have also shown believers are more prone to anxiety in a sense that they lack control, feelings alleviated by subscribing to a conspiracy theory being spread with such apparent conviction by others, end quote. If you're interested in reading these articles in full, I'll have the links down in the show notes. So now that we've heard what others think about the theory, let's discuss what Avril herself has said about it. In November 2017, Avril did a Facebook Live where she answered questions from fans and directly addressed the theory. Here's an audio clip of her thoughts on the theory in her own words.
Is it strange that people think you're dead? Yeah, it is weird. I think they don't have anything else to talk about right now. So at least they're talking. And I think it's like really silly that anyone would even believe that. But yeah, it's this huge rumor. It's not even just a rumor. It's that I'm dead. Aren't they saying like that? Like there's I'm an imposter. I'm an imposter? Mm-hmm. Damn. So I like look that different. But then at the same time, other people will say that I haven't aged and they'll take pictures of me from like way back and like now and be like, oh my gosh, she doesn't age. She looks the same. So it kind of doesn't really make any sense. I think people are just bored and they need something to talk about.
She has also talked about it in several other interviews, most recently in an interview with Galore magazine in January of this year, where she said, it's so bizarre I can't help but laugh at it. I think Avril makes a really good point that there is this contradiction going on where people who believe in the theory insist she looks different, but at the same time there's always these side-by-side comparison photos saying she looks exactly the same. In fact, some people think she looks so identical to her younger self that there's a joke within the fandom that instead of having a doppelganger, Avril may actually be a vampire instead. But I think one conspiracy theory is more than enough. It's also worth noting that there's a lot of fans saying Avril should make fun of the theory or make a song about it, kind of like what Taylor Swift did with Look What You Made Me Do. I don't know if I agree with this. On the one hand, addressing it in some way in her music would be kind of funny, but I also think Avril is trying to steer clear of this for a couple of reasons. Number one, it could be seen as a cheap gimmick to sell her music, and number two, it would stir the pot even more. A quick little reference or something like that in a song lyric might be fine. I also think what they did in the music video for Flames was meant to be a little nod to the theory when the video opens with Avril sitting next to a tombstone that says "Internet killed the rock star." It was an Easter egg for Mozan's album title, but I also think it was meant to be a reference to the infamous conspiracy theory about Avril. So I think just a couple little nods like that is probably more than enough, but I honestly think Avril probably just wants to avoid stirring the pot. And I also think she doesn't really want to draw attention to her new music with some kind of little gimmick like that. I think she wants the music to be able to speak for itself. As ludicrous as this conspiracy theory is, believe it or not, it's actually not the only time Avril has been believed to be dead. In 2013, there was a separate death hoax published online that she had died in a snowboarding accident at Whistler Blackcomb Ski Resort. Thankfully, this one was quickly determined to be false. A quick little story about that. I actually remember being on Avril Band-Aids at the time that this happened, and I remember seeing the news published that this death hoax had been published, but of course we didn't know at the time that it was just a death hoax. And I remember seeing the news and seeing the article that like Avril Lavigne died in a snowboarding accident. And I remember everyone was just going crazy. Like everybody was like trying to find out, is this true? I don't know if I necessarily believed in it, but I think I was a little bit worried that it might be true. And I was starting to get kind of nervous. I'm like, oh my God, did this actually happen? But thankfully we were able to determine pretty quickly that it was just a death hoax. And speaking of death hoaxes, Avril Lavigne is not the only celebrity to be a victim of death hoaxes or strange conspiracy theories. Here's some other famous folks who have had similar theories created about them. Paul McCartney. Like the replacement conspiracy theory about Avril, there is a similar theory about Beatles frontman Paul McCartney called Paul is Dead. According to the theory's Wikipedia page, the theory alleges that Paul died on November 9, 1966, and was secretly replaced by a lookalike. Proponents of the theory cite evidence in Beatles songs and album covers. Like with the Melissa theory, there was even a name given to the doppelganger. He was sometimes referred to as William Campbell or Billy Shears. Rumors began to decline following the publication of an interview with Paul in Life magazine in November 1969. He also poked fun at the theory himself with the release of his album Paul is Live in 1993. In 2009, Time magazine included the Paul is Dead conspiracy theory in its feature on 10 of the world's most enduring conspiracy theories. Elvis Presley. Another famous conspiracy theory concerns the king of rock and roll. Since Elvis Presley's death in August 1977, there have been numerous alleged sightings of him. A long-standing conspiracy theory among some fans is that he faked his death, citing alleged discrepancies in the death certificate, reports of a wax dummy in his original coffin, and accounts of Elvis planning a diversion so he could retire in peace. However, it was confirmed by numerous autopsies that Elvis died of heart failure. Taylor Swift. Though there are numerous conspiracy theories about the pop superstar, this one may be one of the creepiest. According to a 2016 article by Vanity Fair, in 2011, fans began to notice a striking resemblance between Taylor and a woman named Zena Shrek, who was the high priestess of the Church of Satan from 1985 to 1990. This led conspiracy theorists to believe that Taylor was actually a reincarnated version of Shrek. However, the article mentions that this is highly unlikely since Shrek is still alive. Melania Trump. Not even the most powerful woman on Earth is exempt from conspiracy theories. According to the theory's Wikipedia entry, the Melania Trump replacement conspiracy theory alleges that former First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, was replaced or was sometimes replaced by a body double, and that the real Melania was either dead, refusing to attend occasional events, or had exited from public life entirely. Supporters of the theory allege physical differences in facial features, bodily dimensions, or behavior between the original and supposed replacement Melania, and changes in then-President Donald Trump's language referencing Melania. Theories arose at several periods during Trump's presidency, and even Trump himself addressed the theory through tweets and in comments to reporters, denouncing it as false and fake news. Walt Disney. Lastly, Walt Disney became famous for more than just his iconic movies. The famed filmmaker is alleged to have been cryogenically frozen upon his death in November 1966. According to an article by USA Today published in 2021, the legend has taken many different forms over the years. Some believe his frozen body is buried under the popular Pirates of the Caribbean ride, while others claim that the 2013 film Frozen was aptly titled to stop the myth from showing up in Google searches. According to Disney's biography on biography.com, Disney's daughter has denied the theory in a biography she wrote about him in 1972. There are also several signed legal documents that confirm Disney was cremated and that his remains were buried in a plot on Forest Lawn, with the exact location available on public record. So there we have it. From body doubles to faked deaths and frozen bodies, Avril is just one of many celebrities to have a strange conspiracy created about her. It's sort of a rite of passage, I guess, when people become famous. You know you've truly made it when you have a weird theory or two about yourself. What are your thoughts on the Melissa theory, or can you think of any other reasons why it might be fact or fiction? Let me know if there's anything I might have missed over on the podcast Instagram page at bestdamnavrilpod, and be sure to follow the page in order to keep up with new episode drops. And with that, we can officially close the book on our first ever edition of That's What Everyone's Talking About, here on the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. I'm not quite sure yet what I'll be doing for the next episode, whether I might discuss the few new leaked tracks we got a couple weeks ago that I talked a bit about last time, or if I might take a short hiatus as we approach the imminent release of Love Sucks. It kind of all just depends on my schedule and when I can get the episodes done, so if it turns out that I can't get a new episode up before the album release, then I'll probably just take a hiatus for that week and return with an episode all about the new album, since I think that's what everyone would be more interested in, but we'll just have to wait and see. Either way, I'm really looking forward to Love Sucks on February 25th, and I'm sure you all are too. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time on the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast. The Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast is hosted, produced, and edited by Andrea DiFrancesco. theme music is HD and Lights by J. Powell Flicks. Follow the latest podcast news on Instagram at bestdamnavrilpod or email bestdamnavrilpod@yahoo.com.